Oh. Well, hello, boys and girls, and welcome back to Tea Time with Mr. T. As you can see, I am joined today by George, the stuffed gorilla. Say hi, George. Why don't you? Hi, boys and girls. Oh, how does he do that? Hey, he can levitate and float, all kinds of cool things. But he is back to enjoy another story with you. As you can see, I have my A's hat on today, and yes, I am still wearing it, even though they let Marcus Semien get away. I'm still wearing that. Hurts. It hurts, but I'm wearing the hat. Boys and girls, if you have your cup, raise it up. Make sure your pinky is up as well, and we're going to come in for our clink. Okay. Wonderful news for you, boys and girls. I got another great story. Another great one, don't we, George? Yes, we do. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, it sure is, George. So, we have, here it is. I've got my book right here. It is called The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears. And this is by Alastair Chisholm, illustrated by Jez Tuya. Now, there's a lot going on there in this story. And things are going to change going through this story, and you're going to see. Well, hey, Mr. T, maybe the story can have a fox who's really, really cool. Yeah, but possibly. Hey, I can't wait to hear this. It's going to be great. Yeah, maybe then we'll have a fox that's cool. What do you think, George? You think it's going to have a fox that's cool? Yeah, I was thinking maybe the fox could be a rad surfer. A really cool fox who's a rad surfer. Yeah, that would be awesome. Totally awesome. I think that'd be great. Okay? So a fox who is a really cool, who's a great surfer. And can sing. Yeah. And can sing. So a fox who's really cool, who's a great surfer, who can sing really well. Yeah. And maybe he likes to eat cubes. I don't know. Maybe he likes to eat cubes for dinner, or lunch, and breakfast. I don't know. Does that sound good? Does that sound good? He likes to eat cubes too? We'll have to see. We'll have to see about this. I don't know. We're having this fox has a lot of layers to him. Maybe he's fast as Barry Allen. Oh boy. Okay. Well, let's get to our story. So maybe we're on to something with this fox, but we have a story to read that's going to change, and you're going to see why. Now pay attention as we go through, because I'm going to have some questions at the end. Of the Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears. And let's bring you up a little bit closer so you have a good look at all these pictures. Okay. What kind of story shall we have tonight? Asked Dad as he tucked Jamie into bed one evening. A made-up one, said Jamie, with a prince and a bear and a witch and more bears. All right, said Dad. Why not? This, said Dad, is a story called The Prince and the Witch and the Thief and the Bears by Jamie's dad. Once upon a time, said Dad, there lived a valiant prince. He was brave and noble prince, and he lived in a far-off kingdom where he... How far off? Asked Jamie. What? Asked Dad. How far off was the kingdom? The kingdom, said Dad, was far, far away on the top of the highest mountain in the world, Mount Really, Really Tall, where fierce bears and dragons and wolves prowl. Ew, boy. A couple fire-breathing dragons up there. How fierce were the bears? Asked Jamie. Very fierce, said Dad. Enormous and shaggy, with thick matted hair and vicious claws as big as your head. So how did the prince get past the bears then? He climbed down the cliffside where the bears couldn't reach, said Dad. Wow, said Jamie, with his horse as well? Yeah, said Dad. He carried his horse on his back. Wow. He was very strong, said Dad. So, said Dad, there was this prince, and he was very brave, and one day he set off to rescue a beautiful princess. Why couldn't the princess rescue the prince? Complained Jamie. Mom says princesses in stories are rubbish. Well, in this story, it's the prince. I wanted to be the princess, said Jamie. All right, replied Dad. Why not? The very brave princess set off. No, actually I want the prince, said Jamie. The prince, exclaimed Dad, set off to rescue the princess. The princess was a prisoner in a dark tower at the edge of the forest. She was being held there by her wicked aunt, who was really a witch with an evil eye. The sign says, go away. How evil? So evil it could turn you into stone, said Dad. Or jello? Asked Jamie. No, stone. But maybe jello sometimes? Well, okay, yes, sometimes, said Dad. Good, said Jamie. I like jello. Some of them turn into jello and some of them turn into stone. The witch had locked the princess up in the tower. Why did she do that? She did it to set a trap for the prince. The witch hated the prince because he'd laughed at her only friend, a tiny green frog, just as big as your thumb, who lived in the folds of the witch's cloak. And so it was that the prince rode for many miles until he reached the tower, a terrible, awful place called Castle Broccoli, said Jamie darkly. Castle Broccoli. I don't like broccoli, muttered Jamie. At the top of the disgusting, hideous Castle Broccoli, the prince looked for the princess. But before he could rescue her... And in this picture, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Look at this. Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Look at that. All this stuff going on down here. The witch caught him, shouted Jamie. The witch caught him, agreed Dad. And they had a fight, shouted Jamie. And they had a fight, agreed Dad. With broccoli, it looks like. Because the witch was really a ninja, said Jamie. Because the witch was really a ninja? Yeah, exactly, said Dad. The witch, who was really a ninja, attacked the prince with a mighty leaping kick. But he dodged, and she flew over the castle walls, and... Uh-oh... And was eaten by the bears, said Dad dramatically. Oh, said Jamie. Dad looked down. What's wrong, he asked. I liked the witch, said Jamie. She was a ninja, and she had an evil eye and a frog. And anyway, it was all the silly princess' fault for laughing. And she never got to turn anyone into jello. Said Dad. Right. The witch was eaten by the bears, he said. Or so it seemed. There's her little friend, the frog. But at the last minute, the princess, who was secretly a famous jewel thief called Fingers Malloy, picked the lock of her cell, ran to the wall, threw down a grappling rope, and caught the witch. Yay! But then the tiny frog fell out of the witch's cloak. Oh no, said Jamie. Oh no, said the prince, said Dad. The witch grabbed the frog and the princess, and the prince heaved her back up. And the horse helped, said Jamie. And the horse helped, of course, said Dad. Together they pulled the witch and her frog back up to the top of the castle and to safety. Hooray! The witch was so grateful to them for rescuing her frog that she said sorry for capturing the princess. And the prince said sorry to the witch for laughing at her frog. And then the prince and the princess, who was secretly the jewel thief, Fingers Malloy, set off home for their next adventure. As night fell and the stars twinkled over the land of Mount Really, Really Tall, the witch tucked the frog back into the folds of her cloak, where it was nice and warm. Dad tucked Jamie under the covers. "How warm?" asked Jamie, blinking sleepily. "As warm," said Dad, "as a lovely warm bug snuggled up in a rug with a hug from his dad who loves him." "How much?" murmured Jamie. "As much," whispered Dad softly, "as your daddy loves you." "Daddy," whispered Jamie. "Yes?" "What about the bears?" "Don't worry," said Dad. "We'll find out about them tomorrow." And he kissed Jamie good night and left him to dream. All right. So what do you think, George? What do you think of that story? How about you, boys and girls? Did you like that one? It's pretty cool, huh? So, a couple questions for you. Who are the characters? Who were the main characters? The characters it was mostly about. Who were they? And what was the setting? What was the setting of the story? Right? And what happened at the beginning of our story? And how about the middle? What happened around the middle? What about the end? What about the end of the story? Now, as an added bonus to this, I want you guys to do something else for me. After you've written all this down, I want you to write just a little bit about what you think happened to the bears, happened with the bears. What happened next? Jamie's dad said, we're going to find out tomorrow. Well, this is your chance to write this story. So tell me just a little bit. What did the bears do that next day? What did they do? It's all up to you. All right? All right, boys and girls. Thank you so much for joining me and George for Tea Time with Mr. T. As always, please put our cups up, our pinkies up, because we are just so very fancy. And we're going to come in for the clink. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.